I think we should probably start off with the category 4 elephant in the room.
Talking about the bomb that we just watched, or like the actual?
No, I'm talking about the hurricane that we survived. Yes, homies. Your homie supremes, your homie supreme leaders, your homie pontificates. We have survived a natural fucking disaster on a scale that neither one of us ever wanted to. And the thing is, we had and have it better than a lot of folks. You've probably seen the stuff on our socials about why the podcast is delayed, and there's no telling when you're going to get this.
Yeah.
We're recording this like the day after Joker comes out. Mm-hmm. No telling when you guys are going to get to hear it, unfortunately. But we got electricity, and that is let me tell y'all, that is a luxury that you are not aware of until you do not have it.
Bruh, I'm so happy just to have power right now.
Just that we can do this. I mean, we could have pretended to do it.
We could have.
We could have just sat in here in the dark.
You know what's funny? The last time that we saw each other in person was the night before the storm.
Yeah.
We recorded an episode about the worst superhero movie tournament bracket.
We did.
Yeah. Phenomenal episode. I did not mean to conjure a hurricane with it, though.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was going to be that bad.
Yeah. But what was crazy was that, like, after you left, I sat here and I was like, I should probably start rendering the episode, but you know how long that shit takes.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Tomorrow's Friday. I'll just do it tomorrow after work, and then I have the whole weekend to get it uploaded. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about. I went home and downloaded God of War Ragnarok on PC, and I was like, oh well, I played like the very beginning. The opening's kind of long.
Yeah.
So I got through like the opening section or whatever, and then I was like, I'm tired, but I got all day tomorrow. I'll just play this shit tomorrow. Yeah, nope, that didn't happen either.
Didn't quite work out that way.
It did not. Fortunately, I can play that offline. We can't upload podcast episodes yet, so
yeah. Unfortunately,
we got a ton of content though,
bro. Like y'all are gonna get flooded with shit by the time the podcast comes back online.
And I'm going on vacation next week.
Yeah.
So
I mean, so in a weird kind of way, it kind of works.
Yeah, because you'll be able to type stuff out. You'll be able to show them how you tormented me while I was here, while I'm away. Also, just a disclaimer, I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum, but I do have quite a bit of a cough tonight, so that's why my voice is a little more gravelly than you guys are used to, but I'm going to try to keep it to the minimum. But in the event that I fail to do so, sorry. Shit happens.
Yeah. It was one of the very early episodes that we recorded on this podcast, like single digit numbers, I think. And like I was dying on the episode. And I think it was for like the first time that we covered like the Dark Knight trilogy. And like I could barely even fucking talk. In retrospect, I don't know why we decided to record that day, but we did.
That's the inferior Dark Knight trilogy review.
It is.
We did a much better in-depth movie by movie, coverage of the trilogy later.
Still young and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and learning the ropes back then. That was 7 years ago, by the way. It is, yeah. As of October, the podcast is 7 years old.
That's crazy.
Right?
And we still covered Mean Girls before we covered The Dark Knight Returns.
We do not need to bring that up every single episode.
I'm not going to bring it up every episode.
See, this is why I hit you with that worst superheroes tournament thing,
Oh, okay. I will say, though, that while we should be safe from any hurricanes, I was unable to acquire a Pepsi for tonight's recording. So Madam Webb could drive an ambulance through here at any moment.
Well, you know that she has the ability to do so. Even though we're on the second floor, she can launch the ambulance.
That's irrelevant. Yeah.
And hit us directly.
Yeah.
She has that ability.
Yeah, and even if we weren't directly in the path, she'll pull us into the path.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's her true ability.
Maybe it's like the Prince of Persia shit with the dagger.
Oh, yeah.
Is if she doesn't actually hit us,
right,
she just rewinds time and changes it,
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like the movie could have did a better job explaining that part of her powers.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Speaking of movies that aren't great, we are here tonight to talk about the Joker Part 2, whatever the fuck they called it.
Yeah. What is it called? I feel like we should probably know this. Then
something Edgeois.
Yeah, it's it's weird. I just sat here and was like, yeah, man, podcast 7 years old, and here we are. What's the name of this fucking movie?
Yo, this is an exception.
Folie à Deux.
Yeah.
Joker, Folie à Deux.
Joker.
Folie à Deux.
Joker 2. Don't you disgrace the name of Denis Villeneuve with this title.
Apologies.
This does require introductions are in order and a reading of the rules. So if you want to go ahead with the introductions, I will handle the reading of the rules.
Most excellent. Homies one and all, welcome back to a very special hurricane-free episode of the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and tonight I'm here with my good friend, my buddy, the homie Caleb.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And we are here, of course, for a movie review, and this is a brand new movie, so that means that the first half of this review will be spoiler-free. We are going to talk about the plot, the soundtrack, etc., the performances, but we are not going to reveal any spoilers about the movie in the first half. Then we will probably bullshit for an inordinate amount of time, and then we will move on to the second half, which will be balls deep, spoiler-filled, just like you like it.
Full of spoilers. All the peanut butter, no jelly.
And I'll be honest, if you haven't seen this movie yet and you listen to the first part, you're probably going to not go see it.
Let's go ahead and rip the bandage off, man. What are some of your vague overall thoughts and feelings on Joker Folie à Deux?
Whoo. Okay, so, earlier this year I said that I really hope that Beetlejuice 2 is the worst movie that I watched this year. And as I was sitting here watching this movie, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get my wish. I'm not sure if I did or not. I think Beetlejuice 2 might have been worse than this because that movie was just kind of like random and hokey. And this movie, there were at least times that I saw what they were trying to do. I think Todd Phillips is oddly obsessed with smoking. Mm-hmm. That's weird, right?
It is very bizarre. Yeah, I've noticed that too.
There's a lot of smoking in this movie. A lot. Mm-hmm. Like every episode of Mad Men combined. I didn't like it. That's my expert analysis. That's what everybody's here to hear about is the in-depth structural analysis of this art form. I didn't like it very much. We'll get into it. I feel like Todd Phillips that's the guy's name, right? That's the director. I feel like he had a lot of... Okay, let's roll it back a little bit. Number one, I feel like he never wanted to make this movie.
Okay, I felt the exact same way.
I felt like he just got a shitload of pressure from Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Joker 1 overperformed.
Yeah, because it made all that money, and they were like, we'll give you X amount of dollars to make another one. Mm-hmm. And he came out and said he wasn't going to make another one. He had no interest in it.
Yeah.
And then next thing we know, Joker 2 is going to have Harley Quinn in it. Mm-hmm. Next thing we hear, it's going to be Lady Gaga. Next thing we hear, it's going to be a musical. And... Oh,
don't forget, next thing we hear, it's not a musical.
Yeah, and then it's kind of a musical. Uh-huh. Yeah, so I'm not a person that dislikes a musical. Mm-hmm. I think that the Mean Girls musical is better than the original. And as you know, I really like the original movie. I think Greatest Showman is tremendous. So I don't hate the format. But I think that everything Todd Phillips tried to do in this movie, I think he overall failed. Like, it's like you can watch this movie and make a list of like concepts he wanted to try, And I feel like every single one of them just falls completely flat.
Boy, I hate to bring this up because I promise you guys, no matter what I may say, I do not judge this movie based on the merits of the comics. I only did that with the first one. But now that they've established their own canon and their own universe, I can only judge this movie based off of the merits of the rules and the things they established within this little black label DC universe.
Well, you know, the odd thing about that, though, one of the things I would give this movie is that I think that it actually does feel like Gotham City in this movie, whereas in the first one, it just felt like a city.
I mean, I can't really say that it felt like Gotham as opposed to the first one. Not for me. I mean, I guess, it's just one of those things where, for example, when I watch, oh dear Lord, in a couple weeks here, when I watch another Venom movie, every time I watch a Venom movie or a Madam Web or soon a Craven or a Morbius, you know what it does? It makes me miss Spider-Man. And whenever I watch one of these Joker movies, you know what it does? It makes me miss Batman. It's very hard to have an established universe where the central character is not there.
The anchor being.
Yes. Yeah. Literal anchor beings are not present in these movies that we're talking about here. And the problem here with Joker 2, I think overall, is with the first one, they went so far off the rails from what the Joker is, so far away from any kind of true, real character integrity, and they created their own thing. And you know what? That's fine and dandy. They can do that. Make your own interpretation of the Joker, if that's what you want to call it. But by the time we get here to the sequel, they've gone so far off course that they don't really know where to go from there because you don't have anything to draw on. And so with this movie, it's like, what is inspiring Arthur Fleck? What's driving him? What's his motivating force? Because guess what? If you pick up a Batman comic, anyone, you can probably tell what the Joker's driving force is. But because this movie isn't tied to Batman, you don't really have that to rely upon. So, I mean, I think that this movie, it like you said, it does have a lot of interesting concepts that it tries to play with, I think. But I also feel like it doesn't really succeed on anything that it ultimately tries to do. Because this movie, again, it can only live and die upon the interpretation of Arthur Fleck or Joker that we got from the first movie. And once you realize that, okay, clearly there was never supposed to be a sequel, this whole thing just begins to fall apart. I think this movie was it about 2 hours?
It felt about 2.5, 3 hours. I don't know how long it actually was.
It did feel longer than what it was. I'll say that. And it just felt like this movie was a big old 2 hour nothing burger. I hate to be mean about it, but that's what it felt like.
There is no central plot that you can follow or map in any literary sense.
I think the best way I can describe it is this feels like oddly enough, a prolonged prologue.
Yeah.
It just feels like this could have been condensed to about a cool 30 to 45 minutes and attached to the end of Joker 1. Like, imagine if you bought the Blu-ray collection for Joker and then it comes with this extra 45-minute footage that you can attach onto the end of it.
But it's just 2 hours.
Yeah. But instead they blow it up to 2 hours and it's just full of shit that's not necessary. And you know what? I'll try to be kind. I don't think that everything about this movie is awful. Todd Phillips. He's got, was that a Freudian slip?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. It's very possible. Huh?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. Todd Phillips, he does have a very unique style of filmmaking. And there are times where we get certain shots that I really thought were well done. And, I thought that even some of the musical pieces here were pretty decent. I think that they could have meant more had they've actually meant something to the story. And as it stands, I can't say that the musical numbers really add that much flair to the story at all.
No, they really don't. And I will say that the first movie has a way better soundtrack than the second. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the musical pieces that they picked here were just, they were damn near interchangeable.
Yeah.
There was a few of them that were okay, but I mean, for the most part, there's one scene kind of early in the movie that's primarily a Harley number, or I will say a Lady Gaga number. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was pretty decent, but for the most part, I thought that while the first one had a soundtrack that really benefited the film, I never felt that way about this one. I will agree with you on the cinematography, but for us to be talking about the cinematography 16 minutes in, that's not good, folks. That's really not good. There are some great shots, especially in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But everything in this movie drags. Yeah. Like, it's like they took a 30-minute, like you said, a DVD extra, mm-hmm. like a 30-minute DVD extra, and stretched it to 2.5 hours, because there are long swaths of this film where there are characters on the screen, but nothing is happening.
Yeah.
And just very mundane things like a character walking down a hallway are drug out to be 5-10 minutes.
Yep. And I can't really state the purpose for any of those shots. So, I look back at the first Joker movie, and we get lingering shots in that movie as well, but they are fewer and far between in the first Joker movie.
There's so many in this one.
There are. I mean, this is what the movie is.
Yeah, how much of the runtime do you think is lingering shots?
How much lens flare does J.J. Abrams use?
I'd say it's like 70% of the film's runtime. Like, if you take out the musical numbers, which for the most part add nothing, mm-hmm. And the lingering shots, I think you'd be left with maybe 25 minutes of film.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Again, maybe 30 if you're feeling generous, but yeah, solid 25, 30 minutes of material is really all you have here in terms of plot. I mean, and because the plot is so threadbare, there's not a whole lot that we can say here in the spoiler-free section concerning the plot. I mean, except, from the trailers, he's in jail of some sort. He's incarcerated, and there is a Lady Gaga Harley Quinn running around.
And we are using that incredibly loosely. Like, if you thought that the Joker movie wasn't about the Joker, the second movie is definitely not about Harley Quinn.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit here about the characters from what we can, or at least performances. How'd you feel about some of the performances we got here?
I forget the guy's name. He played Mad-Eye Moody in the Harry Potter films, but he's one of the guards. He's like the main guard, the main one in this. Okay. I thought he had probably the best performance in the movie. And he's not playing anybody special. He's playing a asshole prison guard. I mean, we've seen this 100 times. He's an abusive prison guard, but I think he has the best performance in the film. Honestly, there's not very many major characters in this. It's incredibly focused on Joker and Harley. I don't think that Joaquin Phoenix did anything in this movie that he didn't do in the first one. Like, I don't think there was an extra layer he added that wasn't part of the character in the first movie. It's a lot of it is just kind of the greatest hits from the first movie.
I don't think he could, though. I mean, with a plot like this, with a script like this.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's nothing more that he could add to it. I again, like you, I don't think that he did anything that was like mind-blowingly new or innovative to this interpretation of the Joker. But I mean, I thought that he did the best that could be done with this kind of material.
Yeah. I mean, his performance in the first one was, it was like, okay, this is a very, very off the canon Joker, right? But his mannerisms and everything were like really unique, and they kind of pulled you into the movie.
Yeah.
But by the second one, there's nothing new about it, so you're just kind of like,
those same tricks don't work.
Yeah. It doesn't pull you in. It just leaves you wondering when something is going to happen of any kind of substance. If we ignore the fact that Lady Gaga is not playing Harley Quinn at all, I think her performance as an incredibly deranged individual was good.
Yeah.
I've dated a few. So I thought it was pretty accurate.
Yeah. I wasn't really mad at her performance in this either. Again, it goes back to just walking into this movie. I had 4 years to turn my brain off to the idea that I'm getting any kind of actualized versions of these characters.
Right.
And so that made it a whole lot easier for me to watch this movie and be like, okay, this is just, it is what it is. This is a character who happens to be called Joker, and that's a character who happens to be called, this isn't really a spoiler, her name is Lee. Not Harley, but Lee. Lee Quinzel, I believe, is her name. And so, from that regard, I'm like, okay, these characters are just called Harley and Joker, just for the sake of my mentality.
Well, they do drop the full Harley and Quinzel in the movie.
Okay, see, I heard them say, I couldn't tell if they said Harley Quinzel or Harleen Quinzel.
I'm pretty sure they dropped the full Harleen.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they do say the full name at some point. Maybe they should have said it 4 more times to summon a real Harley. I don't know. I jest. I don't jest. I'm serious. I remember seeing Lady Gaga in A Star Is Born. Mm-hmm. And in that movie, I remember thinking, she does really good in that movie, Star Is Born. For me, in that movie, however, I was like, she is incredible, but then I see Bradley Cooper, who puts on a fucking acting clinic, and then it's like, when she is singing, boy, I buy it, and her acting, I thought was top notch too. But then you see that, okay, there's a whole nother level to this shit when Bradley's on the screen. With this, I gotta admit, I didn't feel that dividend quite so much between her and Joaquin, and I thought I would.
Honestly, I almost feel it in the opposite direction a couple of times because it goes back to what we were saying earlier. What she's doing on the screen is fresh. Yeah. And what he's doing is recycled. Yeah. And so it's like, when it's just him on the screen, you're like, okay, we've seen this before. Mm-hmm. But she is at least unpredictable. So when she comes on the screen, you're like, oh, what is this bitch going to do now? Right. So, there is at least that element of it that makes her, I think, a little more exciting than him. Yeah. In this.
Yeah, because it's new. It's, like you said, it's something fresh.
Yeah.
Whereas with Arthur Fleck, I'll be honest, there's really hadn't been a whole lot of growth with his character over the past, I guess, in canon, 2 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you're thinking that this is like a character study, it's really not. I mean, the first one maybe, but this one it's really not that. I mean, every time that you think it's gonna go in that direction, it stops short of exploring whatever you think it's going to go explore, and it just kind of takes a sharp right turn. It's just like a lot of unfinished sentences back to back to back.
Yeah. What's the core takeaway from this movie? Like, what do you think the theme or the message here is that they're trying to convey?
I you want me to make something up?
Oh, just curious if you thought they had anything cooking.
I mean, if you want to really like claw for it, you know, if you want to pull like a Zack Snyder fan and like put some shit in the movie that's not there, I will say that maybe the message is like, you have to be careful what kind of crazy you inspire, right? Because something crazier than you is going to come along. If there's any social commentary or anything that you get from this movie, that's probably it. But, I mean, that is so thinly veiled in here.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just digging for that.
Yeah, my thesis was something similar. I guess my takeaway was more like people love to idolize a monster sometimes. And, you know, coming off the heels somewhat recently, like the Dahmer documentary where people kind of took that and then they just... Sometimes it seems like people forget that was a real person who did some really heinous shit. And so they kind of, they prop them up like they would any other kind of horror movie villain, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like this movie is trying a little bit to lean into that, about idolizing, you know, someone who probably should not be. But, you know, even then, like, you know what? Pause real quick. All you motherfuckers out there who gave me shit about my take on the first Joker movie, I need an apology. If you've seen this movie, you owe me an apology.
That's true.
God damn it. Because at least with the first movie, there were several defenses of it, and which I was here to listen for because, again, I really liked the first movie, just not as a Joker movie. I think it's a great movie. Just nothing to do with the Joker. But the issue is that you watch the first movie, and at least my takeaway is that people love the idea of the chaos of bringing down the people who needed to be brought down by any means necessary. And now we have this man who was neglected by society, who was neglected by his family, who was neglected by everybody, and now he's fighting back in the most anarchist, chaotic way possible. And that was a lot of people's defense as to why this is actually a really cool and unique interpretation of the Joker. I still disagree because Joker is he's more than that. And the feelings that he instills are different. But anyways, you look at this movie and they seemingly kind of drop that aspect of him, you know?
Yeah. It definitely has some like kind of O.J. Simpson trial of the century kind of parallels as well. And if you take that situation, right, where it's like how divided the country was during the trial,
right,
and then he like got away with the shit, and if you like fast forward to like 5-10 years later, he's kind of like universally vilified, right? Like the stardom had wore off, and everyone was just kind of like, this guy's a piece of shit, you know. So.
Yeah,
maybe that they were trying to draw some parallels there, but
yeah,
we're just fishing, folks.
We are, and I mean, and again, like there are other themes, if you want to use that word, that are even less thinly veiled that we'll talk about in the spoiler field section.
But for the most part, we were like, Todd Phillips, what's this movie about? He was like, go fish, bitch.
Yeah. In terms of scenery, I'll be honest, we don't get a whole lot in that regard either, in terms of scenes and atmosphere. There's a very unique opening to this movie. And you know what? I won't even go too much into what it is, but I don't think it was really necessary for what we got here. Do you remember the opening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
No.
My headset cut for like a second. It's fine now.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. I was like, that's why I was like.
Oh, I did unplug it from that end and then I plugged it back up.
Oh,
before
okay.
we started recording. I don't know if that was anything to do with it. Yeah, you looked startled there for a second.
That's why I was startled.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just like,
yeah.
But so you were saying?
Yeah, I did. You remember the opening of this movie?
Oh, I do. It was very long.
Well, I meant like, fuck it, mild spoiler alert, like the animated bit.
Yeah. That was odd.
It was, right? I didn't know what they were doing. Like, I didn't know if Todd Phillips was just leaning more into the idea that fuck it, I got WB's catalog behind me.
I'm incredibly mad that like we had to get a truncated House of the Dragon season, but they paid for this. I was thinking that like half the time this movie was on.
Bruh, yeah. I think WB is gonna probably be disappointed at how much this movie makes compared to the first one.
It's already bad. It's like around the Marvels.
Oof.
And The Flash. Oof. I'm sure WB remembers The Flash. Yeah, man, it's not going good. The Rotten Tomato scores for users and critics are bad.
We did see people walk out.
We did. We saw several people walk out of the theater and they did not return. And it was early too.
Yeah.
I also this is a thing that bothers me immensely unless you have a good reason to do it, and they didn't. The format change, how it kept going from letterbox to widescreen.
Yeah.
Or well, technically it was going from 4:3 to 16:9, but whatever.
Yeah.
I really hate that shit. It irks me. It's like a personal thing. I don't like it. And this movie had no reason to do it. It wasn't effective. It didn't help the movie at all. It was just annoying.
Oh, well, you see, when it was in one aspect ratio, it was purely the Joker's POV. When it was in the other, you see, then it was actual reality. I'm fucking around.
Yeah, because like they dropped the gimmick about 10 minutes in.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Just like everything else, they just kind of drop it at some point. And it like never really comes around.
Yeah, like speaking of things that come around, man, this kind of has to go back to the characters because again, there's not a whole lot happening here in this movie, right? So if a movie is light on plot, then in my mind, this is a character study. Then, we're talking about the Fly episode of Breaking Bad, right? Where nothing happens, but so much happens with the characters. This ain't that.
No. No, it's really not. Like, these characters don't really go through any sort of journey.
No. And
there's no arc.
Yeah, there really isn't. It's to the point where it's hard for me to separate the acts in this movie. I'm like, fuck, where does the first act end and the second begin? And it's...
And they try to, like, divide the movie up into like little sections like that. They have a lot of fade to blacks in this movie. I didn't really get anything out of that either.
Yeah, no. This movie, they do try, and one thing I was going to commend Todd Phillips for was that he seemed to not be trying to capture that feeling of uneasiness that people had watching the first one. When you see the first one and Joker says you get what you fucking deserve, and then he shoots Robert De Niro in the head. I mean, everyone has seen tons of gratuitous murder on screen and they're unfazed by it, but the way that the whole movie was building up to it made people feel extremely uneasy. And I mean that in a great way. It was a really great use of filmmaking, the way that was shot. Pun intended. But in this movie, it does to a degree feels like Todd tries to leave people with that feeling again, but to significantly less results.
There's actually, I'd say, less graphic violence in this movie.
Yeah.
There's actually very little at all. Yeah, man, it's tough to try to really analyze it. Like I'd say there's like a first and second half to this movie. It's like before the trial and then the trial.
Yeah,
and
the problem with the trial is this: the trial goes on forever.
It goes on forever, and it's just recounting the shit from the first movie.
Mm-hmm. And if this were truly a character study, then I think that this could have been extremely interesting.
Right.
But it's not, and it wasn't. And I mean, so there's just moments all throughout this movie where they have opportunities to make something special here, to really delve deep into the characters, but they have nothing. And it's just kind of obvious.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the score here. I mean, I thought that overall, I thought it was good. You know, I'm not head over heels for it, but I didn't think it was bad either.
I don't think it actively took away from the movie. Well, I would say the musical numbers do. So yeah, I'm going to include that. So I can't even say it was good. I think it was below average. I think the musical numbers were incredibly safe. Like they're all the same kind of genre for the most part. They're kind of interchangeable. There wasn't really a lot of creativity. Some of the soundtrack is even reused from the first movie. That's kind of how devoid of creativity this thing is. Like I said, I really don't think Todd Phillips ever wanted to make this film.
And I think it's obvious. I think you guys, if you haven't seen it yet, by the time you're 30 minutes in, you'll kind of come to the same realization that there's nothing really going on under the hood. I think one thing that really could have helped the musical numbers would be if they tried to depict what maybe Joker and Harley would like to do, or even if the musical numbers, if the words they were saying meant anything,
right?
But in most cases, they're just singing songs. Typically,
in a musical, the musical number advances the plot, and you typically for a time that you're going to. If you're directing a musical and you're going to use this format, ideally you want to use the musical numbers to take people through parts of the movie that maybe either don't work on page or, there's a lot of exposition and you need to spice it up. Or if it's just a part of the story that's not really that interesting on its own, but you want to give it some flair. For example, in the newest Wonka movie, there's a section where he goes out to sell his chocolate. If he just walked around in the streets and was like, hey, would you like some chocolate? And the person was like, yeah, I'll take some chocolate. And there was just 10 minutes of that, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on? So there's a musical number where he's going around and giving out the chocolate. And, people are buying it and they're talking about how fucking good the chocolate is. And it works really well in the movie. There is none of that in this movie. The characters literally just start singing. And a lot of times, it has nothing to do with what's actually going on screen. It is fucking mindless.
Yeah, I think they told Lady Gaga this is just like an extended music video.
Yeah. It doesn't work as that either, but it would at least explain why she agreed to do it.
Right. I'll be honest, man, I don't really have much else to say.
Me either, yeah. Let's score this thing and roll it on.
Yeah. I don't remember who went first last time.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. I don't care. Oh man, this movie made me miss the hurricane. It was something. This is the first movie that I've got to watch because we have no internet here, and we just got power back. So this is the first movie I've watched in weeks, and it's still it did nothing for the format. I'm gonna tell you, this movie is pretty bad. Like, I wasn't sure whether this or Venom was going to be worse, but I'm going to tell you now, my money's on this.
Same.
Like, there's no way that Venom, even if they like one and done Noel.
This could be the worst Venom movie that we've gotten, and I think that it'll still be better than what we got here.
Yeah, like if they kill Noel with the power of friendship, it will still be better than this movie.
Let's not go too far.
It could totally happen. Vin Diesel will just show up and be like family, and then Noel just explodes.
Fuck.
But there's just not too much more that we can really say in this section. I am gonna give this movie a 3.5 out of 10.
Judging this movie by its own merits, like the way that I was having to fragment this movie in my brain was the hardest thing for me to do concerning this movie, because I had to separate it from the comics, has nothing to do with that, and then I had to separate it from its predecessor, because Joker Folie is his own movie. And so I had to look at this thing and try to analyze it on its own, the way that it stands. And listen, this movie is plotting. This movie is drab, but not only is it drab in terms of like the aesthetics of it, but again, we don't even get to see a whole lot of environment or even a whole lot of Gotham for that matter. The characters, they feign deep, but they're not. None of them. Even the Joker, even Harley, they're not deep. This movie wants to be thought-provoking, and it wants to be a conversation starter, the way that the first one was. It wants to make you feel uneasy, and it wants to point to the fan base of the first movie and say, see, you're the reason why, Arthur Fleck is X, Y, or Z. In some weird ways, they try to play with these gimmicks. Nothing really works, though. At the end of the day, you can't fake creativity. Todd Phillips, while I may not agree with his direction of the Joker with the first movie, he was onto something. And again, I thought that as his own standalone thing, I thought it was a really good movie, the first one. With this one, there's just nothing going on, man. I think that there are some pretty good shots that we get in this movie. I think that there are one or two sparks of life that we get throughout the movie. One or two sparks that we get maybe throughout the courthouse scene. But as a whole, man, there's just nothing really sticking with this movie. Nothing ever really works. I give it a 4 out of 10.
There you have it, folks.
There you have it.
Oh, man. This was not a great return.
It wasn't, right?
Yeah. When does Venom come out?
I think 2 weeks.
Oh, my God. So, like, right after I get back from the beach?
Yeah, dog.
I'm going to need my whole vacation for the beach. I'm not even going to be gone that long. I'm going to need the whole time I'm gone to recover from this.
Dog, yeah. So, it's pretty nutty. So on the way, now, by the way, guys, so now we're going to mosey on over to the spoiler-free section. But along the way, to give you guys time to find your phone or hit the stop button or do whatever it is you need to do, we kind of meander here for a second, and then we take some time to maybe discuss some other matters on the way to the spoiler-filled section.
Yeah, I mean, also to give us a moment to not talk about this movie.
It is a respite for us.
Yeah. A little break.
Yeah, dog. So, I feel like there have been some things that have been happening in like the outside world while we were trying not to die.
Yeah.
During this hurricane. Yeah. So I know we already talked about the Green Lantern information.
Yeah.
There was the. Oh yeah. So. About this, I don't want to say too much about this because, again, I don't like all the spoilers and shit. But with the Thunderbolts trailer, we did talk about that last time.
Yeah.
I know that you may not know a lot about like the Sentry, but there's been something that's been on my mind that I'm really concerned about, and that is, what if we don't really get the Sentry in this movie? Like, what if it's just Bill Pullman's kid and he just starts to glow? You know,
like it's just them hinting at Sentry.
Yeah, or that like we don't really get like any kind of transformation.
I mean, I don't know if I would super hate that if they're just kind of setting him up for another movie.
Well, if that's what they're doing, then I mean, I guess that's one thing.
I mean, obviously they're trying to bring him into the MCU for something.
Yeah. The problem with the Sentry is this though. Like, if you're gonna bring him in, you have to have ideas for him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you can't just have this goddamn powerhouse who's crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, and have nothing for him. He cannot be a loose thread. He can't be a celestial baby sticking up out of the continent.
Can't be a Mega Scroll with all the Avenger powers.
Yeah, it can't be that just running around. Yeah, can't.
Gotcha.
Can't be Amelia Clark just out there with all the powers of everybody. You know, you can't be a group of fucking Eternals either who fuck off when you need them the most.
When the thing they're specifically here for happens.
Right.
And they're like,
yeah.
What were we here for again?
Yeah, what were we supposed to do? Also, like, would the snapping even work on them? Because they're like sex robots or whatever. Like, they're not even really
not even truly, like, alive, are they, necessarily?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Yeah.
Did you hear that they're considering, and anytime we hear this kind of thing, it's always like, you're kind of rolling your eyes because, this is the next thing that happens. If you remember with Deadpool and Wolverine, how many false, rumors there were out there.
There was a lot.
There was a ton of, this character's going to be in it. This character's going to be in it. But you heard that Eric Bana Hulk for Secret Wars. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Yeah, I saw this rumor the other day. Heavily rumored that they're considering bringing back the Eric Bana Hulk for Secret Wars. To be honest, it kind of would make sense to have this version of the Hulk in Secret Wars. If this would be a clever way to get the Hulk into Secret Wars without having any kind of impact on the MCU one, because I mean technically the Ruffalo Hulk and the Norton Hulk are the same Hulk.
They're the same Hulk, yeah.
But canonically the Eric Bana Hulk is a whole different thing. So
right.
If they were to put his version in, then they could have a still crazy, insane Hulk, and they could keep Smart Hulk or whatever.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
No.
If they want to turn Eric Bana's Hulk into like Maestro later on down the line.
Oh, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Or a World Breaker.
Yeah, or hell, he could become World Breaker or whatever. I mean, there's tons of options they could have there. And I'll be honest, I don't know how old Eric Bana is, but I don't think he's too much older even than Mark Ruffalo.
No. I think if one of them was going to become Maestro, I think it's got to be Ruffalo's.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, his is intelligent right now.
Yeah.
So
it would make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to do something with him eventually.
Do they?
One would hope, right?
Every time we've said that, things have just gotten worse for him.
That's true. That's true. You got to wonder, right? Like, what's the plan for the original Avengers? Like, obviously, like, they have to die at some point, or they have to become the villain, or they have to ride off into the sunset. There's really your only three options if you're going to end a superhero like that. So
the interesting trend about the MCU, and I can't wait until years from now where they'll do a documentary on it, and they'll be talking heads doing a case study on it. We'll probably be on that. But
they should get us for that.
They absolutely should. But it's going to be interesting looking back at the MCU and seeing how it, in so many regards, oddly follows the trends of comic books.
Yeah.
Where you have people getting on board and you have this growing fan base. And then after a while, you have people who are like, I don't really know what's going on, but I have friends who like this, but there's too much for me to go back to catch up on all this material. Where's a good jumping on point? The next trend, according to comic books, that they're gonna have to hit are retcons.
Yeah, or total resets.
And total resets, yeah.
I really do think that, after Secret Wars, that's kind of what we're going to have. I think Secret Wars is going to serve as a soft reset of sorts. I think you're going to have a world where there are mutants and things like that, and they kind of start fresh with it.
Yeah.
I obviously, like, if they were smart, I think that's the way they would go, is to have Secret Wars, like, the way it ends needs to serve as at least a soft reset of the MCU.
I think so. And think about it. By the time we get Secret Wars, what year would that be? 2028?
Yeah, I think so.
Around 28 or 29, right? So you got to think. The MCU officially started in 2008. That's 20 years, man. That's an entire generation of people.
Yeah.
Gone from infants to adults.
Yeah, I mean, so do you take it and go, do you full reset the world? Do you do a thing where it's like, okay, we're going to combine all the multiverses now to where there's one timeline? Because I think that the concept of a multiverse to you and I is kind of a cool thing, but I think that they've lost the casual audience with it.
Yeah.
I think it's too much for a casual audience to keep up with. Mm-hmm. And, people said that about, like, the shared universe thing, and we found out that our society is very apt to dig into that.
Yep.
But, maybe the whole multiverse thing, maybe,
the bridge too far right now.
Yeah, you're not, you guys weren't quite ready for that, but your kids are going to love it,
But also, it wasn't handled well either.
Right. There's the other thing of it is it wasn't handled well. But, nobody ever in the moment points to the execution. Yeah. It's always the concept that's blamed.
Right.
Whereas the execution is always everything, right? Like, with the right execution, you can make almost anything work.
Yeah.
But it's easy to go, oh, well, this is the concept's fault.
Yeah. And it's also like this, right? How much time do you have before hell, out of the original 6 Avengers, we don't have that many left,
We have 3.
Yeah, we got 3 of them. And it's like, okay, how long before, like, I get it. I mean, with the MCU, with Marvel in general, you have an enormous roster, absolutely huge. Now, you can use hubris and ego and think you can take any of these characters and make them A-listers, or you can look at the ones who are already A-listers and say, how long do we want to go before we bring these people back in some way?
Yeah. Well, kind of the other problem, too, with the movie slate, with them doing a hard reset with Secret Wars is like, we're pretty sure that Tom Holland just signed on for 3 fucking Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
Are they all going to come out before Secret Wars? If not, then, you've got literally a dangling thread there.
Yeah. That's true. And, I guess the other thing is this, right? They have to understand that there's going to have to be some carryover. You know what I mean? They're going to have to do an incursion thing, right? Where pieces of universes survived in the greater part of a whole, Yeah,
I would love it if, they, after Secret Wars, we've got some time and the next movie is an X-Men movie. Mm-hmm. Right? Go for it. And from jump, brand new cast, no carryover on that.
Yeah.
I would love that. There's a lot of different things they could do. I think you have to stay away from those original Avengers for a while.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have them,
You don't have to have them now.
Right.
But the thing of it is, like, to a lesser degree, it would be like trying to have a formation of, imagine like a team of X-Men, right? That that doesn't have Storm, Beast, Cyclops, Wolverine. Well, I think you don't have to have them to make the X-Men, but goddamn, it'll help.
Well, I think maybe you go with X-Men and Fantastic Four as your teams. For a while.
I see what you mean.
I'm saying you don't. So
there's no Avenger. Okay,
you keep the Avengers out of it for maybe a whole cycle.
Yeah,
but if you're gonna do that, I mean, I think you're gonna have to have X-Men as your big franchise marquee because Fantastic Four is not known to draw like that.
Right.
I mean, let's just be honest. There's not a franchise that draws like the Avengers.
No.
There just fucking isn't. The closest thing is Avatar, and it sucks. It's fucking boring. Speaking of, we'll get back to the Joker in a minute. Speaking of, going to watch a movie where nothing happens for 3 hours. We get back to that in a second.
At least that movie was pretty.
Yeah, I mean, at least, I think me and you went Way of Water.
Yeah.
Me and you watched it in 2D. We didn't even have the 3D version.
Yeah.
And that was awful because, that was the second time I had to sit through it. You remember, I got it for 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had already seen it in 3D. Mm-hmm. And at least that was very, very visually impressive. In 2D, it was not. And I just, got up and, went and made a phone call and got some snacks. Walked around the lobby for a bit. I was like, nothing's going to happen for the next 20 minutes. We're good.
You're like that Pablo Escobar meme of him just sitting around.
Yeah, just waiting, just doing anything other than being in there.
Oh, shit. Well, I guess we should talk about some goddamn Joker.
Yeah, so we can wrap this up.
Folie à deux.
That was your substance for tonight, folks.
Yes, yeah.
The interlude.
I hope you guys appreciated that because now it's back to goddamn Jokerville here.
It's full spoilers now.
Full motherfucking spoilers.
We're in Spoilerville.
Yes.
So, man, what'd you think about Harvey Dent?
Again, Todd Phillips, he can't help himself. This motherfucker could have been named anything.
He was generic lawyer number 9.
Yeah. They were like, I got an idea. Let's name him Harvey Dent.
He had a nice suit on.
He did. And at least there was a nice touch where, after the explosion, half of his face was fucked.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a nice touch.
Yeah.
And they did throw the line in about Harley having the psych major.
They did, yeah.
There were a few little, breadcrumbs for us.
That's all of that shit could have been done in post where they were like, hey, so I tripped over a comic book the other day and come to find out.
This character that you have in your movie, he becomes a villain named Two-Face? He gets half his face melted off. Are you serious? I mean, Todd Phillips thinks that Harley Quinn originated in the comics.
He does. Yeah.
So.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
No wonder.
That kind of explains some things. When I take a look at these movies, right, I put the first one aside because I think that even people like me who don't like that interpretation of the Joker still love that movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Yeah,
on its own merit, the movie's great.
It just didn't have anything to do with the Joker.
Exactly. But I think about it like this, and I'm like, how much more interesting would this sequel have been if they had given us the Dr. Quinzel? I mean, and having her fall into the trappings of. But that's also the other problem though. Arthur Fleck, he isn't necessarily charismatic.
Right. And in this movie, he just gets completely fucking manipulated by her.
Yeah, it's kind of a flip on the script.
And I'm not saying that in a way that where it doesn't make sense because obviously this kind of thing probably happens every day, especially since I forgot Zazie Beetz was in the first one. When she showed up, I was like, oh yeah, she was here. Yeah. He was completely obsessed with this girl, and she never said 2 words to him. So the fact that this chick walked up to him and said that she thought he was amazing and all this other stuff, and let him get them 5 little pumps in.
Right. That's 2 more than me, man. He was fucking stamina man.
Right, yeah.
He was going for it.
Yeah, and hit the target. apparently.
Yeah, hit the target first try.
Yeah, that's awful.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, they just, it's like, you can completely see the obsession. I kind of wonder if maybe they were trying to go for this thing where, like, she wasn't even real. Because, like, some of it's so far-fetched, right? Like, the whole, like, a guard let me into the cell when he was in solitary.
Yeah.
It's almost like maybe he just completely imagined her. Or, kind of like in the first movie where he, like, always obsessed or whatever about Zazie Beetz' character.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like he saw her that one time, like in the beginning. That was real. And then everything after that, he just fucking imagined. Right? Because, like, the head guard letting him go to the music class and all that shit, none of that really tracks either.
Yeah, because you have the idea that, like, that's for, like, non-violent crime. But was that even the fucking... Was that even the prison? Because, like, all prisons are segregated, like males and females.
I think it was a psychiatric prison.
Okay. Arkham is a psychiatric prison, However, this version of Arkham, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah, it's kind of the same as Blackgate, I don't know.
Also, did the guards fuck him?
I don't know what they did to him, bro. Like, because I was curious. I was like, okay, they're gonna beat him up, Or they took him in the, and then
they took him in the shower and like they took his clothes off, and I'm like, okay, well they're just gonna like burn him, like they're gonna hit him with the hot water. But then you don't see that happen.
Yeah,
either.
Or I thought they were just gonna beat the shit out of him and then just rinse him off so there's no blood or whatever. But then we don't see anything.
Yeah,
and we just cut. And we see him being thrown into the cell. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that I want to see explicitly what happened, but like, if he did get raped, then like at least let me see unbuckling so I know what
happened.
Yeah,
leaving that open to interpretation is not creative, really.
It was an odd choice.
There's so much in this fucking movie, like. I'm trying to find the positive here. There were a few jokes that landed. Like there's a few comedic moments in the movie, but there's just so many things where it's just the romance aspect of it is so nuts, right? Where it's like he gets to the point where he says there's no Joker, and then she's just like, nah.
Yeah.
But it makes no sense because it's like when he says there's no Joker, he's meaning that that's him the whole time. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like she didn't want Arthur Fleck at all.
Yeah.
She only wanted the very separate Joker.
Yeah.
And if I got to deal with this fucking ridiculous motherfucker as well, then I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm. But that seemed to kind of be the crutch of the movie, though, was that people were in love with the Joker.
Yeah.
And not Arthur Fleck.
Agreed.
And they kept trying to push this idea of them being two separate entities.
Yeah.
I mean, to varying degrees of success.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I really wanted, at the end of the trial, I wanted us to see, like... Joker 100% take over and reveal that, yes, they are two completely separate characters. I thought that would have been a way better way for the movie to go.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Is for him to actually have the DID and for Joker to be this completely separate entity.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, that's just kind of not it. Everything is so vague. Like, the movie just refuses to commit to anything. Really.
Right. And that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like the finale for that courthouse scene should have been money. Like that should have been the money shot, right? Where he's up there and he's giving his closing statements. I feel like that should have been just this, okay, this is what the movie's been building up to. But it just goes to show that the movie had nothing to offer.
No, it just falls completely flat.
Yeah.
And I mean, the ending, too, is just...
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, this guy was jealous of the attention he was getting, and we're still digging for that. I mean, there's one scene earlier in the movie where it pans over to this dude.
Yeah.
And he's like in the corner, and like Arthur's getting all the attention, and he's just kind of pissed about it. And then at the end, he stabs him to death, I guess, so now he can get the attention.
Right.
And we see him give himself the Heath Ledger scars or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was giving himself scars, if he slit his throat.
No, he clearly was cutting his mouth. Yeah. There were a couple of Heath Ledger nods in this. When he's in the police car after they catch him, after he escapes.
Yeah.
That shot was straight out of The Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like that, in the car. And I was like, don't do that.
Right.
I get you're trying to nod, but just leave.
Yeah, not in this movie. Yeah, don't nod here.
There's very few things I can say about this movie that have to give it any sort of flair or credibility or... I mean, it's boring. It's a very boring film.
It is.
There were so many times where I was like, do I gotta take a shit?
Right.
I think I could. I think I probably could. I think that'd be more interesting than this.
And that's the thing, right? Like, I have seen a lot more movies that are technically worse than this. But being boring is one of the grandest sins that a movie can commit.
Agreed.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, like on a technical level, this is better than Madam Web in just about every way. But on an enjoyment level, Madam Web ironically has given us so much material.
Yeah, I mean, at least with Madam Web, there were parts of that movie that I was like into it. There were things happening, even if I thought they were ridiculous. But with this movie, for the most part, like, it's not more extreme than the first one. Like, if you're wanting to see him do some psychotic shit, that doesn't really happen. There's one explosion in the movie.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it was out of nowhere, and it was a cool moment and a cool shot. There's quite a few cool shots in the movie, but nothing is happening in those shots. This movie has no idea what it wants to be.
It doesn't. And ultimately, this movie just didn't need to be made.
No, that is. I mean, this might be the shortest review we've ever done.
Yeah,
I'm just because I just don't know what else we can say to you guys.
Yeah, there's nothing of substance here, and like that's the thing, right? Like going back to like Madam Web or Morbius or any of these other shitty movies, right? Those made me angry because they did things in those movies that I could then react to. With this movie here, nothing is happening, and so I have no anger, just apathy.
Yeah,
which is even worse.
Because like when he gets stabbed to death at the end, you're just like, okay.
So that was a setup then from the guard.
Yeah, because you're kind of led to believe that Harley is going to come back to him. It's like, oh, you got a visitor. And then the whole thing's just a setup for him to get shanked.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. I mean, he was going to die anyway. He was going to get the death penalty anyway.
Right.
So...
Well, we don't know what the other counts, if he was...
Yeah, because they never got to it.
Right. Yeah. You know what it felt like? It felt like a fucking dollar store version of the ending of oh man, I forgot the name of the movie. American Society X.
Yeah.
Remember at the end when Edward Furlong, his character gets shot to death at the end of the movie. And like it's this whole thing where like you completely understand the message being conveyed without them saying anything about it.
Right.
And it's like, oh shit, well, this whole thing about the cycle of violence and about the racial tension, but then you see how his character learns and grows, and by the end of the journey, he's wanting to be something different, but it's too late. With this movie, I feel like they tried to do something similar, but to no avail. Like there was no emotional payoff. There was no light bulb moment. There was no, because there's no character growth or development in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier about some of the social commentary of like, how we kind of idolize people like, Jeffrey Dahmer or whatever. And then, but, at the end of the day, Arthur Fleck is just a dude who did some off-the-wall shit. There's nothing special about him.
Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of the point that they're trying to make here is that, this dude had his 5 minutes of fame or whatever. He did some monstrous shit, but at the end of the day, he was just a very weak, deranged human being. Mm-hmm. And, he wasn't necessarily clever or crafty or anything. There just wasn't anything special about him.
This movie should have been the time where Todd Phillips should have tried to sneak more Joker persona into Arthur Fleck.
Yes.
But he didn't. It would have been great to see a more conniving, maniacal side of him come out at least from time to time.
Yeah. And I mean, you even have the thing where it's like, you have the lawyer and the psychiatrist early in the movie and you're like, all right, well, maybe they're going to go down the tried and true kind of Batman plot point where like, oh, okay, well, society is too, lax on criminals, blah, blah. But that's another thing that they just dropped, that thread. It never goes anywhere.
Yeah. Also, I mean, he's got to be the worst Joker, man. I mean, he lives in a world where there's no Batman. There's not even the Commissioner Gordon. And you can't get away from the cops for an hour?
Right. Yeah, multiple times. Right.
Yeah.
They burned the asylum down.
Right.
And he still couldn't get out.
He still couldn't get out. Come on, man.
I mean, and there's no Batman.
There's no Batman. But maybe that's the problem. He's got no motivation.
Yeah.
There's no Batman.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I know they need to find Harley and lock her ass up, though.
You're right.
Because that bitch is crazy.
Crazy. So she had herself committed.
And then casually set the room on fire.
Bro, the most casual arson I've ever seen.
Yeah. Just like, oh, man, well. Yeah, actually, there's probably not enough shit in that piano that'll burn. Let me drop some papers in there. Dude, that's probably the best scene in the whole movie to me.
It might be.
It's like the time where I was most intrigued because I'm just like, what is she going to do next? Turns out that was it.
That was it, yeah.
I do like her musical number right after that.
Yeah. I did think that they were going to break out after that. And I was like, oh, all right, so the movie's going to get into the next gear.
Yeah.
And then, no.
There's only one gear.
There's only one gear.
The transmission's fucked. There's only one gear.
And it's neutral. Yeah.
You know that there were people a few years ago arguing that Todd Phillips and not James Gunn should be like the head of the DCU.
Oh, fuck off.
And I'm just like... Number one, he has no interest in that. Mm-hmm. Number two, I would like the DCEU back, please, if that's what we're going to go for. Let me go see Aquaman 3. I'm dying for it.
Dog. With all due respect to Todd Phillips, because I'll say this, man. Looking at his catalog back in 2019, I didn't think he could pull off a movie like The Joker. I was like, give me Hangover 4.
Right.
But instead, no, he did. He certainly made a
tribute to a Scorsese movie.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
That has a character named Joker in it.
Yeah. Yep. That's what he did. And I don't think that gives him liberty to run the next phase of WB's DC.
He shouldn't be allowed to direct an episode of The Penguin. Which, by the way, did you get to look at any of that?
Bro, I ain't got no fucking internet, dog.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe you had got to watch either that or Agatha before the great hurricane.
I did not. And that's another thing I was going to start like the next day. Yeah, I was looking forward to my weekend. I was like, all right, I'm going to get a lot of cool shit done. I didn't.
Yeah, no.
I sat around hot in the dark.
Yeah. I got a lot of reading done.
I did during the day.
Yeah, right. You know. Well, I had some little lights at night.
Yeah. About a day or two before I got power back, I had like little light fixtures. And man, like I fucking burned through an Omni,
I fucked up and So leading up to the new Stormlight, they've been putting out a chapter or two every Monday.
Right.
And I've been ignoring that shit. Well, I was like, all right, I'm home. I'm sick. I ain't got nothing to do. My phone screen has its own light.
Yeah.
And I hate reading off of a screen.
Same.
Dude, I fucking started that shit and I was glued to it. I read 15 chapters without moving. I don't even know if I blinked. God damn it, man. It's really, really, really good. Like, if the whole book keeps up this way, it's gonna be my new favorite. But depending on how things go.
Yeah.
But holy shit, man. Yeah, so I did that, and then I had another Sanderson book that's like not Cosmere that I had been had started and just kind of kept, I'll get around to it, and then some other shit comes out. Some video game comes out.
Right.
So I went back and, I'm almost done with it. So.
Oh, shit.
And then I'm taking Saga to the beach with me, so I'm gonna read that at the beach. So.
Hell yeah. Will we ever get a good movie that features both Joker and Harley Quinn? I feel like that should be easy. Like in the grand scheme of things, it shouldn't be this difficult.
I don't know, man. We haven't gotten a good Dick Grayson in a good Batman movie, other than Forever.
That should also be really fucking easy.
We haven't gotten a good Superman and Lex Luthor movie.
Well, it's before my time, but I would say that the first Dick Donner, Chris Reeves movie
for their time, was good.
Yeah,
but we haven't gotten a modern one.
Yeah, Superman Returns was boring. Kevin Spacey, creepy bastard he may be, he did his thing.
Yeah.
Brandon Routh just looked like Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah. I assume that Lex is going to be in Superman Legacy.
Oh, yeah, because they cast him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult, yeah.
Yeah. And I think he's going to do a good job. I hope he is.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, we'll see.
Yeah.
We veered off, folks.
We veered off hard.
We're real close to Dick and Nip's territory here.
Yes, for the brother fucks, of course.
Yeah. Before we start talking about the new Oreo flavor of the Dick and Nips, this crossover.
This is one of the shortest reviews that we've ever done.
But the movie has to give us something to talk about.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We haven't podcasted in over a week. We came here wanting to talk to you guys. Right. But, this movie did not give us anything to talk to you about. Do not go see it, please.
I got nothing else to say about this goddamn movie.
I literally just sat in the fucking dark for 4 days, and I was more entertained through various parts of that than I was during this movie.
Yeah. There's some neat shots in this movie, folks. Every once in a while, you get a really neat shot.
Jesus fucking Christ. You could read any book in this room and have a better time than if you went to go watch this movie. I would have a hard time picking out an MCU entry that's worse than this movie. That's how bad it is. I think I would rather sit through Love and Thunder than this movie. Yeah. I don't know
I'm thinking.
I don't know if I could sit through Ant-Man and the Wasp though. I feel like that might be a bridge too far.
I'm thinking I'm in hell and Satan, he's all optimistic and he's showing me around and he's like, "All right, man. So what do you want to do first, man? I got these 2 movies. I got Joker, Folie, and I got Thor: Love and Thunder."
Nah, bro, I'm grabbing that Love and Thunder and running straight to the hell movie theater. I'll be like, this one.
Oh, fuck.
Because at least something happens in that movie. I might not like what it is.
Yeah.
But at least I could tell you that there is a plot. I may hate it, but at least I could point to it and go, okay, well, this is what happened. But in this movie, I can't tell you what happened, not because I was confused, but just because, there was a point about an hour and a half into this thing, and I leaned over and I was like, hey, Ace, I don't know how long we've been in this movie theater, but is something going to happen in this fucking movie? And the answer to that question was no.
Yeah, that sinking feeling hit me too. It was a similar feeling to when you made us watch the Star Wars holiday special. when I looked over at Oz and I was like, I don't think it's gonna get any better. I think that this is the movie. It was a similar feeling watching Joker 2.
There was at least that little animated part in the middle of the holiday
special. There was an animated part in this movie.
Yeah, but the animated part in the holiday special at least is okay. Like, it at least has, like, Boba Fett and Han Solo in it.
Oh, shit. Okay, no, you can't say it's good because it has intellectual property in it, all right?
Yeah, but Han Solo in the holiday special is at least Han Solo. It's actually him.
Okay, fine. I'll concede to that point.
Like, I mean, Carrie Fisher was on cocaine the whole time she was playing Princess Leia in all the movies. She just wasn't trying to hide it in that. Princess Leia is actually in it. At least they didn't call it Star Wars and then, like, they just have some guy that's from Tatooine. He's not a farmer or a Jedi or anything trying to be Luke Skywalker. He's just a fucking random ship mechanic. He's like, yeah, I'm Luke Skywalker. Fuck.
Goddamn.
My parents are dead. I can be Luke Skywalker.
I can be Luke Skywalker. Motherfucker. Yeah, man. So, what do you want to see for Joker 3?
I don't want him to make it. That's what I want. That's what I want for Joker 3. You know what I want for Joker 3? I would like a full season of House of the Dragon, please. I would like you to take whatever budget that you were thinking to give anybody that's not named James Gunn or Matt Reeves for anything DC related. Yeah. And I would like you to give it to the HBO people so that we can get a whole season of House of the Dragon.
Yeah, so we can not be... Are we going to get 2 extra episodes or are they just going to fit it all into 10?
They're going to give us 8.
8?
Yeah, we got 8 this year.
So we're going to get another 8?
We're going to get 8 next year. 8 in 2 years. And then in another 2 years, we're probably going to get another 8, if not less.
Jesus fuck. Okay. This is making me frustrated.
But they will spin up new Game of Thrones shit, in the meantime.
Yeah, of course.
But of course.
But of course.
Yeah.
Watch this movie called Joker Folie. What does that mean?
I looked it up when they originally said it, but I have forgotten. Something about 2.
Because, I don't think... Is there a single person in this movie that even speaks French?
I'm sure... I mean, Lady Gaga probably...
who actively speaks French in the movie?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It means... it's delusion or mental illness shared by 2 people in close association is what it means.
Can't they just call it Joker 2 Crazy Fucks? Get it?
With that, folks, I think we're done. Oh my God.
Okay. We end with the joke that's funny than anything that Joker said in this goddamn movie. All right. Yeah, fuck it. First podcast back post hurricane. This is what we got for you.
This is what we got.
Yeah. So I guess I will go ahead and render this episode and get it ready for upload like I did with the other one, and it'll just be sitting in the tuck. And when the time is here, you guys are gonna get bombarded with fucking episodes.
It's too bad that we did the worst superhero movies before this one, fuck. Because this one totally would have been on the list.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're doing it again in another 5 years.
Yeah.
God damn.
It'll be your turn.
Oh fuck.
Kevin's done it. I've done it. It's gotta be your turn, motherfucker. Well, folks, we are glad we could join you. It has been a trying time around here. I wish we had something of more substance to talk to you about. But, we will soon. We got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, so.
We do.
Stay tuned whenever we upload this.
Yeah, whenever this is uploaded, But, hey, yeah, like Caleb said, we do have a lot of things coming down the pipeline, so I'm really looking forward to to those episodes we have in the future. But of course, the next big movie review is Venom 3, which is going to be fucking Shakespearean by comparison, I'm sure.
Probably.
Well, that's going to be all for now. Homies, even if you didn't enjoy Joker Folie à Deux, then hopefully you enjoyed this review. With that being said, we've hit the limit here for what we can do with this movie, guys. Thank you guys again for being here and for being patient with us throughout this unintentional hiatus. We'll be back again soon, but until then, my name is Superhero Homie Q.
And I'm Superhero Homie Caleb.